Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. On September 17, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered a decision that would forever alter the landscape of American trade policy and international commerce. The news sent shockwaves across the globe, with headlines dominating front pages and financial markets reacting in real time. Investors, business leaders, and policymakers scrambled to understand the full impact of the court's bold move. The court struck down the sweeping tariffs imposed during the Trump administration, fundamentally changing American economic policy. These tariffs had affected everything from steel and aluminum to everyday consumer goods, shaping the way the U.S. traded with the world's largest economies. This wasn't just a legal technicality, it was a seismic event with real consequences for businesses, workers, and families everywhere. Small business owners worried about rising costs, factory workers faced uncertainty, and American families wondered how this would affect their daily lives and household budgets. The decision ended a contentious era of economic nationalism and fierce international disputes. For years, trade wars and retaliatory tariffs had strained relationships with key allies and trading partners, leading to protests, tense negotiations, and even factory closures. At its core, the case asked a fundamental question: how much power should a president have to shape the nation's economic destiny? Should one leader be able to unilaterally impose sweeping changes? Or should Congress have the final say in matters that affect millions? The court sided with Congress, drawing a firm line in the sand and reaffirming the importance of legislative oversight in major economic decisions. This ruling is a powerful reminder of America's system of checks and balances, ensuring that no single branch of government holds too much power. The effects will ripple through every corner of the country, touching the lives of workers, business owners, and families alike. As we explore this historic ruling, we'll look at its origins, the immediate effects on the economy and global trade, and what it means for the future of American leadership in the world marketplace. To understand the Supreme Court's decision, we need to revisit 2018, a year that marked a turning point in America's approach to global trade and economic policy. The world was watching as the United States took bold, controversial steps that would ripple through international markets and domestic industries alike. That was when the Trump administration launched its sweeping America First trade war, a campaign that promised to put American workers and businesses at the center of U.S. policy. President Trump and his team argued that decades of unfair trade deals had hurt the country, and it was time to fight back. Tariffs were imposed on a massive scale to protect U.S. industries and jobs, targeting steel, aluminum, and especially Chinese goods. The administration invoked laws originally designed for national security and to combat unfair trade practices, dramatically expanding their use to cover hundreds of billions of dollars in imports. Supporters argued these tariffs would revive American manufacturing, bring back lost jobs, and force other countries to negotiate fairer trade deals. They saw it as a necessary step to restore the nation's economic strength and independence. But critics, including importers, manufacturers, and especially farmers, said the tariffs backfired, raising prices for consumers, disrupting supply chains, and sparking costly retaliation from trading partners. Many small businesses struggled to absorb the higher costs, and American agriculture was hit hard by foreign countermeasures. Many believed the president was overstepping his authority, using national security as a pretext to bypass Congress's constitutional power over commerce. Legal scholars and lawmakers questioned whether such sweeping actions should be left to the executive branch alone. The debate was fierce. Were tariffs a shield for American jobs, or a self-inflicted wound on the economy? Across the country, protests erupted, economists clashed on television, and communities felt the impact in very different ways. Ultimately, the answer would not be decided in the marketplace or on the campaign trail, but in the courts, where the limits of presidential power would be tested. The stage was set for a historic legal showdown, one that would determine just how far a president can go in shaping the nation's economic destiny. The tariffs faced immediate and intense legal challenges from a wide range of groups. Importers, manufacturers, and trade associations all quickly mobilized. These stakeholders, deeply affected by the sudden changes in trade policy, argued that the new tariffs threatened their businesses, disrupted supply chains, and put American jobs at risk. They all argued that the executive branch had gone too far, overstepping its constitutional boundaries and acting without proper oversight or checks from Congress. Their central case was rooted in the Constitution. It's Congress, not the president, that holds the explicit power to regulate foreign commerce. This separation of powers, they claimed, was being undermined. The challengers claimed the administration had stretched old trade laws far beyond what lawmakers originally intended, using vague language to justify sweeping new actions. They argued that national security was being used as a flimsy pretext for economic protectionism, masking what was really a move to shield domestic industries from competition. The case quickly became a test of the so-called major questions doctrine, a legal principle asking whether the president needs clear, specific approval from Congress before taking sweeping economic actions that affect the entire country. The government, for its part, argued that the president was acting within broad authority already granted by Congress, and that the executive branch must have flexibility to respond to fast-moving global threats and crises. They insisted that in a world of unpredictable global trade disputes and national security risks, the president needs the power to act decisively, sometimes without waiting for lengthy congressional debate. But as conflicting lower court rulings emerged and the economic impact of the tariffs grew, the stakes became too high to ignore. The Supreme Court was compelled to step in and resolve the constitutional questions at the heart of the dispute. The justices now faced a pivotal decision, not just about tariffs, but about the very boundaries of presidential power in the 21st century, and how far executive authority can reach without new laws from Congress. At the heart of the case was a fundamental question. Can a president, relying on decades-old statutes, fundamentally reshape America's trade relationships and economic landscape without explicit, up-to-date consent from Congress? The answer would have consequences far beyond tariffs, shaping the balance of power for years to come. On September 13, 2025, the Supreme Court decisively limited executive authority over trade. The majority ruled the Trump-era tariffs exceeded the power Congress had granted, relying on the major questions doctrine only Congress can authorize such sweeping economic measures. The court said old trade laws weren't enough to justify a trade war affecting hundreds of billions in goods. The decision invalidated the steel, aluminum, and China tariffs, affirming Congress's constitutional role in commerce. Dissenting justices warned this could hamstring future presidents, but the majority set a new precedent. Major economic initiatives require clear legislative approval. The balance of power between president and Congress was fundamentally reshaped. The ruling triggered an immediate halt to tariff collection at U.S. borders, ending taxes on over $350 billion in imports overnight. Importers breathed a sigh of relief, but officials scrambled to implement the court's directive across thousands of products. The Biden administration now faces the challenge of unwinding these policies and reassessing trade strategy, especially with China. Ongoing negotiations are in flux, as the leverage of tariffs has vanished. Businesses are exploring whether they can reclaim billions paid in now unlawful tariffs, likely sparking years of litigation. Internationally, trading partners are reassessing their own retaliatory tariffs, with the EU signaling willingness to lift measures. Good news for U.S. exporters. But with China, years of mistrust mean rebuilding stable trade relations will be a long, delicate process. The Supreme Court's decision will have a direct impact on American wallets. With tariffs gone, the cost of importing goods falls. Experts predict lower prices on everything from electronics to clothing, easing inflation for families. For businesses, especially small and medium-sized ones, operational costs drop, boosting profitability and competitiveness. American exporters, especially farmers, stand to regain access to foreign markets as retaliatory tariffs are lifted. However, not everyone wins. Domestic steel and aluminum industries lose their protective shield, facing tougher competition and potential job losses. The economic ripple effect is complex. Some sectors will thrive, others will struggle. The ruling highlights the trade-offs inherent in major policy shifts. For most Americans, the end of tariffs means relief at the checkout counter. But the story is more nuanced for workers in protected industries. The court's decision creates clear winners and losers across the economy. Industries relying on global supply chains, like automotive technology and consumer electronics, will benefit from lower costs and more competitive pricing. Retailers and tech companies expect relief as tariffs on imported components vanish, potentially making gadgets and cars more affordable. On the losing side, U.S. steel and aluminum producers who now face renewed competition from cheaper imports. Labor unions and some politicians warn of plant closures and job losses in manufacturing communities. The decision is already fueling political debate, with some calling it a victory for free trade, others a betrayal of American workers. The 2026 midterms will likely see candidates staking out positions on how to protect local industries or embrace global competition. The future of American trade policy is once again up for grabs. Experts agree. This ruling is about more than tariffs. It's about restoring balance in American governance. Steve Forbes calls it a game changer, reasserting Congress's authority and creating a more predictable environment for business. Legal scholars say the court reinforced the separation of powers. Congress sets the course. The president steers, but must follow the map. Business leaders praise the return of stability, ending years of uncertainty over sudden tariff changes. Not all are celebrating. Some economists and labor leaders worry the U.S. has lost leverage to negotiate fair trade deals and protect critical industries. The debate over how to balance free trade with protecting American jobs is far from over. The ruling's impact will echo in policy debates and election campaigns for years to come. America's approach to global competition and domestic industry is being redefined. The Supreme Court's decision ends a turbulent era in American trade, with far-reaching consequences for the economy and the nation's global role. By invalidating the tariffs, the court has set in motion changes likely to lower prices, reduce business costs, and open new opportunities for exporters. But the real legacy is a powerful reaffirmation of checks and balances. Congress, not the president, holds the power to shape trade policy. This ruling forces a return to public debate and legislative approval for major economic decisions. The story of the tariffs is a reminder that government power is meant to be shared, not concentrated. Legal principles and constitutional structures have a direct impact on daily life. In America, no single branch has the final say. The ongoing dialogue between them is essential for a healthy democracy.